Have you ever actually tried to watch yourself think? I mean, really tried to pin down a thought as it's happening? It sounds so simple, right? But it turns out to be this incredible paradox that's fascinated people for ages. Today, we are going deep into this mystery of self-awareness to see what happens when the mind tries to turn around and look at itself.
So here's the central question we're wrestling with. It's almost like a riddle. What happens when the I tries to see its own seeing? This question really gets to the absolute core of what it even means to be a conscious, aware self.
And this is where we hit the main problem, the paradox at the heart of it all. You know, seeing your hand is easy. The observer, your I, is totally separate from the thing being observed, your hand. But when you try to observe your own mind, well, the observer and the thing being observed are the exact same thing. It's a completely different ballgame.
Okay, so let's try a little thought experiment right now. What happens when you actually try to turn your attention inward and just watch a thought? The result is kind of frustrating, but it's also incredibly revealing. It's our first big clue. Here's how it goes down. First, you decide, okay, I'm going to observe my next thought. An image pops into your head. Let's say it's an oak tree. But the very second you turn your attention to examine that thought of the oak tree, poof, it's gone. And what's in its place? A brand new thought, which is the thought about thinking about the oak tree. You can never quite catch that first thought in the act. The source material has this absolutely perfect metaphor for this feeling. It says, trying to observe a thought is like trying to pounce on your own shadow. The very act of trying to catch it is what makes it dart away. Our observation is always one step behind the thing it's trying to observe.
All right, so if we can't even pin down a single thought, what about the bigger picture? Can we find some kind of stable, continuous self that's there day after day, year after year? Well, as we broaden the investigation, the mystery only gets deeper.
And what's really fascinating is how this plays out across a whole lifetime. The author looks back and realizes the boy he was back in the 1640s might as well be a different person. The things that boy worried about, his view on the world, it all feels completely foreign to the old man he is now. The only thing that seems to connect all these different versions of him is the story he tells himself about his life.
And that story, that thread of memory that ties it all together, turns out it's not nearly as solid as we think it is. See, memory isn't like a video recording that you just play back perfectly. Every single time you remember something, you're actually rebuilding that memory from scratch. And in that process, you can't help but color it with who you are right now.
So, if the contents of our mind, all our thoughts, our feelings, even our sense of self, are always shifting and changing, what's the one thing that stays the same? The text proposes this idea of consciousness as such. Now think of it not as another thing you're aware of, but as the constant, unchanging light of awareness itself, the light that lets you see everything else.
But of course, when you try to hunt down and isolate this pure awareness, you run right back into that same shadow-chasing problem. You just can't seem to grab it. And it's hitting this wall, this dead end that finally leads to the crucial breakthrough of the whole journey.
And here it is, the revelation. The entire approach, the whole way of looking was flawed from the start. The huge mistake was searching for consciousness as if it were just another object in our experience, like a chair or a thought or a feeling. This insight just flips the whole problem on its head. Consciousness isn't a piece of furniture in the room of your reality. It is the room itself. It's the space, the context, the fundamental clearing where every single one of your experiences, all the furniture of your life, can even show up in the first place. As the source puts it so beautifully, you can't find consciousness as an item of awareness for the same reason you can't see the light that you see with. The light illuminates everything in the room, but you don't actually see the light itself. Consciousness is that illumination. So this huge insight, it doesn't really solve the mystery with a tidy little answer. Instead, what it does is it gives us a completely new way to live with the mystery. It shifts the goal from finding a thing called consciousness to just embracing the nature of awareness itself. So what do we do with this? Where does this leave us? Well, not with an easy answer, but with some real practical wisdom for how to live. It's about practicing awareness, just noticing your thoughts without getting totally swept away by them. It's about remembering your mind and body are one and the same. Valuing conversations because we can't figure this out alone, holding our beliefs firmly enough to live by them, but loosely enough to learn and change. And maybe most importantly, accepting that this mystery isn't a problem we need to solve, but a state of wonder we get to live in. And that leaves us, not with a conclusion, but with one last question to carry with us. If consciousness isn't some thing you can find, then what exactly are you looking for the next time you decide to look within?